Okay, so the last fight to go over from episode 3 is the Mark Chambers versus Blake Howard fight. Um, this was decent. It was decent. Mark Chambers took a ton of shit over this performance, and while I don't think it was a good performance, I think that there are other people in the episode, specifically the Kurt and Stevie Ray fight, that should have been taking way more shit than Chambers. That just didn't appear to be the case. And so, that's a little frustrating to me. Anybody that saw my video about that fight will know how I feel about it. I was definitely surprised by Terp's comment about Chambers, saying that he deserved, or he shouldn't be there, and that he should be in a pizza shop making pizza somewhere. I mean, first of all, that's a diss to all my pizza makers out there, Terp. Like, to all my pizza makers out there, I appreciate y'all. It's one of my favorite foods, and don't listen to him. I think that he would have been fair if he said he's not ready for Power Slap, because I agree with that. I think that his performance proved that. But there was some good stuff to take away from Chambers, specifically his ability to take monster shots without flinching. I mean, Howard is an intimidating guy and a big hitter, and especially after he got knocked down and almost stopped on the first slap. I mean, he stood up there and he took it like a man. He took it like a man, 21 years old, and he fought more like a man than some other people on the card. Or not the card, the episode. But yeah, it wasn't a great performance. But anyway, we'll start with Howard. He was the one guy in the episode that I think came out of it looking quote unquote good. I think Newsom looked decent, but he had a couple fouls, so it's really tough to say that he came out of it looking great. But I mean, Howard got a TKO win against somebody that had, almost 40 pounds on him. So it definitely was an impressive showing from Blake. We'll start with him. So he's from Colorado, and he said he does maintenance at a mental hospital. So he definitely knows Kerr and probably knows Stevie Ray as well. I find it hard to believe that they've never met before this show, but I guess I could be wrong on that. He looked tough. He looked the part, man. He is a scary dude. He even has the face tat. Undersized for the weight class, but this still looked like a mismatch when they were lined up next to each other, despite the weight discrepancy. I mean, no offense to Chambers, but I mean, he looks even younger than 21. So I really didn't know how he was going to do. But I mean, yeah, it looked like a mismatch when they were facing off. And then, yeah, I don't think I don't think Howard is a huge heavyweight, so I think it's inevitable that we'll end up seeing him at light heavyweight, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves into saying that. And then for Chambers, he's a kid from PA, again, super young, super big. I actually had some brief words with him after this episode aired, and he told me that he was like in the 300s as far as weight goes, so he cut a ton of weight to get to 265, and even if it was a few weeks before the fight, I don't even know if that's enough time to healthily cut that much weight. I'm a huge advocate for cutting weight in Power Slap, but only if you do it the right way. And so who knows how much water he was cutting and how good an experience he is at cutting weight. It could have affected his ability to take a slap, but who knows? So yeah, with that said, Blake won the toss and he was slapping first. He went right on one with a measure. This is becoming more common, like you got Babyface, who has the right on one army, and a lot of people are picking up the right on one, or not even right on one, but just on one, and I still don't like it. I'm a big golfer, and I've found that a lot of times I get my best practice swing on the second one. And I think that a lot of times you can waste your good one on the second one and then come back on 3 and maybe not have your best slap. So I really think that 2 is the way to go, but who knows? Everyone's different But yeah, for whatever reason, he went on one, and it was a big shot, but it seemed low to me. Not only did it seem low, it seemed like he led with the palm of the hand. And I'm not saying it's a club, but it definitely wasn't clean. So, but they didn't call it. So, I mean, you have to count it as a monster shot. It was a knockdown, rocked Chambers. I was impressed with Chambers' recovery. And yeah, he didn't flinch at all. Like, I didn't love how he took a slap, but I did love that he didn't flinch. So, regarding how he took a slap, I mean, first of all, if you've seen my video on how to take a slap, there's really two ways you can do it. You can roll with it, or you can try and clinch to the point where you don't even move when the strike comes and when the strike goes through you. So he didn't do either of those. He was way too loose when he took the slap. And not only that, but he closed his eyes. I think the closing of his eyes helped him not flinch. But even if you're going to do that, so you can eliminate the roll if you're closing your eyes because you don't know when it's coming. But he should have been way more clenched up. He was way too relaxed. And when you're way too relaxed, especially if you don't see it coming, you can just turn into a bobblehead real quick. So it was about, as far as how to take a slap goes, it was pretty bad, but good for not flinching and great recovery by him. He showed heart, man. He could have easily taken a way out. He could have fake stumbled. He could have stayed down and not gotten up in time. I mean, but he didn't do it. He stood back up. He took it like a man. And then on his first slap, I mean, it wasn't a good slap. It was a club. It was super high. Didn't land flush at all. But you have to be a little bit lenient on it because, again, this kid just got rocked, dude. He got rocked. He got knocked down. It was amazing coaching when he did get knocked down by Terp. The guy never ceases to amaze me as a coach. He was saying stay on a knee. And then he not only was he saying stay on a knee, but then when it was time to get up, when it was late in the count, he even reminded him to stand up because you can see that Chambers was still out of it. Like if Terp doesn't say get up, I'm not even convinced that he was keeping track of the count, and he might have not gotten up in time. So it was amazing coaching by Terp once again. And it was great coaching by Trujillo saying that, like, he don't want to feel that again. He don't want to feel that again. I mean, not only does that sound good for the judges, but it also sounds good for the refs who will ultimately be the judge of whether or not you're okay to continue after you take your next slap. So it really was great coaching by Trujillo on that too. But yeah, so it wasn't a good slap by Mark. But again, you have to be a little bit lenient because he just got socked in the face. I mean, if Mark had won the coin toss and then put that slap on, there'd be absolutely no excuse. I mean, there'd be absolutely no excuse. But he took a monster shot and then put a bad slap on. But they ended up calling the clubbing foul, which is correct. I mean, it wasn't a dirty strike. He didn't lead with the base of the palm, but he did land outside of the zone, which is technically still a club, and people tend to forget that. So it was a club. It was the right call. But it didn't really matter because on Blake's second slap, I mean, he sat him down for good. It was a monster shot, and Mark just wasn't able to recover. It was a monster shot. You can't, I mean, I think a bunch of people go down on that. Again, I don't think that Chambers warranted as much shit as he took. I really don't. He showed some heart. He stood up after getting absolutely blasted and took another strike like a man. So yeah, he's definitely not ready for power slap, but to think that he doesn't, like, you can say that he shouldn't be there, but you can't say that, like, he could never be there. I mean, again, if he cleaned up his striking, I mean, he was quite clearly able to take a monster shot. And in power slap, you have to be able to take one shot. If you have KO power, you have to be able to take one shot because the coin toss is not guaranteed. So he definitely proved that he's not afraid to take a slap and that he can take a slap, especially because he was taking the slap horribly. Like, he wasn't clinched at all. So who knows? With some practice and then learning how to take a shot, I mean, I don't know that we'll ever see him again, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, fights fall out on a day's notice, so you never know. But I'm looking forward to seeing Blake again and how he stacks up against some heavyweights that are a lot bigger. And, well, not bigger than Chambers, but, like, bigger in a solid way, like have more muscle, don't carry a lot of bad weight. Someone like a James Stonier, who we're going to see on the next episode, I am absolutely pumped for that. I really want to see him compete again. I think that the fact that he's on the show even kind of proved my point that I made earlier, and that, like, I was so upset with the Stevie Ray and the Kerr fight that I just think that there's a lot of people out there that wanted that opportunity that would have done way better. And I think that the fact that Stonier's on the show when I believe he was on the roster, I don't know that for sure, and I wish I could have verified, but they didn't even really announce the cast for a while, so there was really no way to know. But I believe he was already on the roster, and if he was, I mean, he clearly took fights to stay active and keep his name out there, which I think some other middleweights would have done. But that's besides the point. I'm super excited for next episode. I really hope it delivers, but more than this, because this was not a good episode, let's be honest. I don't think anybody would argue that this was a good episode, because it wasn't. But yeah, so I'm hoping that delivers. Also, this is completely besides the point, but I actually had an interesting conversation with JT Tilley yesterday, who's if you don't know, he's the CEO of Slap Fight. And yeah, I mean, I kind of shit on them in my video if you haven't seen that yet. So we had an interesting conversation, and I'm considering doing a follow-up video on that, because there were some small things that I got wrong and or misinterpreted, but I'm going to see if he would be okay with that, just out of respect, because I'm not like a reporter or anything, so but I do know enough that when you have conversations with people that are technically off the record, you shouldn't really be releasing those. And then also, I'm not sure if anyone has any interest in, I'm considering doing this, but I've definitely heard some inside info about upcoming matches and matches at Power Slap 9. And then I was considering doing a video about that. I also want to check with the people that I've heard this from. I would never drop names or anything, but even just to put that stuff out there, because you never know, like, how easy it would be to trace it back to someone. So we'll see if I'm able to do those. I'm hoping I will be able to. But yeah, this wasn't a good episode, and really, really, really hoping that they step him back up, because yeah, it wasn't good.